So I think that the first part, if we're going to do outbound sales, has to start with, what is our value? Like, really, what are we offering to people? And what is the benefit of working with our company? And that has to be a true thought exercise that maybe can't be solved in an afternoon.
Sure.
It really has to be dialed in. It's not something necessarily that you need a marketing company to come up with. You know what you do. And if you don't know, call your 5 favorite owners and ask them, what has our company done for you?
Wow. Yeah, that's really good. Welcome to Grow Outbound, the podcast that will take your outbound sales game to the next level. I'm Ben Smith, and I'm joined by my co-host, Kristen Lopez. Together, we'll be sharing tips, tricks, and insights you need to succeed doing outbound business development for a property management company. Whether you're starting out or you're a seasoned pro, we've got the actionable advice you need to get ahead. So tune in and let's grow outbound together. Kristen, it's great to be here with you. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to be at headquarters here in Houston, Texas. We were just talking a couple minutes ago. I got to tell you, Raleigh, North Carolina has a lot of things, but it does not have Whataburger.
That is very true. And, that's one of the many reasons that Texas is a superior state.
Gosh.
I love Texas. I'm from Texas. For those of you that don't know, I live in San Antonio, so not Houston, but Whataburger is top tier.
We'll have the better state conversation on another podcast. We'll save it for another day. But our reason for being here today is to talk a little bit about why we're doing this podcast, who we are, and give our listeners a little bit of background. So maybe to kick us off, I'd love to hear how you got here, a little bit about where you've been.
Yeah, absolutely. So my career started in real estate, and I was hired on as a dialer for a residential real estate team, which means that I dialed for 8 hours a day. Outbound calls, cold calls. I would get some warm leads, but for the most part, I was dialing outbound. I would do a geographic search of a neighborhood, find all of the phone numbers and call them. And I got to try all different kinds of scripts and talk tracks to figure out what worked. But I really cut my teeth learning those first few years of my career. And after that, I worked with don't know how to describe her. Sorry. I worked with a fantastic woman who does commercial real estate and tenant representation on the commercial side. So I worked alongside of her, working with different franchisees that we were fortunate enough to work with and helped find them space across the country. And then I took a job cutting my teeth again, doing wholesaling, where I door knocked in the San Antonio heat in the middle of summer and asked people if I could please buy their home. And that was hand-to-hand combat sales, I feel, where I'm sitting down in a living room with somebody telling them what their house is worth and how much money I could give them, which it took a lot of skills and I learned a lot of things for the time that I was doing wholesaling. I transitioned from there into a business development role with a property management company. I did not know anything about property management from my time in real estate. Property management was never talked nicely about. It was just that thing that people did that nobody could understand why they did it. But I took a job as a business development manager and learned a lot about the industry. And I loved it so much so that I took a job as a consultant. And I was consulting business development managers and coaching them. And I did that for about 3 years. And again, staying within the industry, found this amazing company, Discover, and took a job here. So it's been quite a journey full of a lot of different things. But ending up here at Discover was fantastic. And once, this job came about, it all made sense of all of the other things that I had done to get here. But I'm curious from you, your background and how you ended up here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my sales career working in insurance. And to get started, I worked mostly doing personal lines insurance. So selling home and auto policies, a little bit of life insurance to individuals. And from there moved into more of the commercial B2B sales world of selling to businesses, business insurance, as well as employee benefits. So I did that for a little over 5 years. And from there, I kind of knew that I was ready to do something different. Really wanted to get into the startup world. There's a great community of startups in Raleigh. And so started doing some research. And actually, when my wife and I bought our first house, it's funny, we were kind of going through that first year long. It was a new construction home. And so, the 1-year warranty for workmanship was about to be up. And somebody came out and said, well, your HVAC isn't running very efficiently. Have you changed the filters? And my wife and I looked at each other and we're like, what are you talking about? And, obviously having lived in an apartment for the first few years, somebody did that for us. So I got on Google and quickly typed in, filters, whatever, and found that there was this great company that sent filters right to your doorstep on however often you wanted them. So was really lucky to then find out that that company was based in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I thought, man, this is such a cool concept. And it seems like, they're getting a lot of traction. I want to go work for them. And little did I know they had this property management vertical where, we would send air filters directly to the tenant's doorstep. And anybody that's been in property management for any amount of time knows that tenants are not very good about doing that on their own. And so it really solved a big need. And I had a great experience. For a while, I managed a territory, which was actually Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston. So I spent a good amount of time here in Texas. And after a couple of years, moved into a role managing salespeople. So was there for about 4.5 years. And really, it was an incredible experience. I got to know so much about the industry that way. And really kind of felt like still feel like it's a bit of a hidden gem. Not many folks really know about this space, and it's definitely grown a lot in the time since I've been in the industry. So yeah, it was a great experience, and was excited to take on this new opportunity as well, just like you.
Yeah. So knowing the background that you had in the company that you worked for, I mean, they're a fantastic company, and for you to leave there, the new opportunity had to be something that was really exciting. And so what was it about this opportunity and working here at Discover that made you want to come over here and work on this company? Yeah,
absolutely. That's a great question. Well, it's funny how things work out. So like I mentioned before, Houston was part of my territory, and our founder here at Discover, Morgan Cole, was actually a client of mine. He implemented resident benefits packages for his property management company that he owned. And, Morgan reached out to me one day and said, hey, need to kind of wind this down. I've decided to sell the management company to start this new software company. And so we hopped on a call, and he kind of demoed the system for me live on that Zoom call. And I was really blown away because as a salesperson, I had never seen anything like what the software did for property managers. As an outbound sales professional, right, we use all sorts of different tools for selling, right, for identifying property managers who we wanted to sell to. But on the property management side, I was not aware of any tool that could provide that level of information to a business development professional or a property management owner who was doing business development. So I was really impressed with what he had. And obviously we kept in touch, and just, as things grew over here, eventually there was an opportunity for me to come on board. And, I think one part of it is just believing in the product and loving what the product does, but also the opportunity to come in very early. Morgan has spent a lot of time developing this product, but now it's time to introduce it to the marketplace. And that really gets me excited. I feel like the experience that I had previously, I've sort of feel like I have the roadmap in some ways of how to do that. So really excited to be on board and to introduce what we have to folks and watch it grow from there. So I'll kind of flip that question back around on you. Obviously, you've been in the industry for a long time and in a lot of different roles. What excited you in particular about coming on board here?
Yeah, absolutely. What I love about it is your story is very similar to my story in the way that Morgan was a client of the company that I was doing consulting and coaching at. And I was coaching his BDM at the time, Amy. And we had worked together for over a year, and our time had come up for me to talk to Morgan about a renewal for him to stay on as a coaching client. And he was all ready to do it. I sent him the invoice, and then he sent me a message and he said, "Hey, I'm actually selling my property management company," which was a bit of a blow just because I wanted the renewal. I wanted to make that happen. But once he showed me what he was working on, I knew right away. I said, absolutely, sell your property management company and you need to be full-time working on this product. And I remember being blown away by the ability to just find information so quickly, because as a business development manager, I had tried to do these things of finding information on absentee owners and figuring out who I can talk to and how I can be proactive in my sales. And it took me weeks to find the information, and Morgan did it in 5 seconds. And I was like, holy moly, this is huge. And so, Morgan and I had kept in touch, and he had actually hired on my husband to help set up this amazing studio that we have here. And I rode along with my husband here to Houston one day to help set this up. And we were out at lunch with Morgan, and Morgan was talking about the growth of the company and a salesperson that he needed to hire. And we were talking about who would be a good fit. And I don't know, something inside me was like, it's me. And so I told Morgan, I was like, I think that I am the person that you should hire. And so I think that I am a good salesperson. I don't think that I could sell anything. I have to sell something that I believe in. And this product here is something that I didn't even know could exist and didn't even know that it was possible. And so to see it, I was like, I want to be part of this. And I want to be initial launch into the industry and letting people know of what it can do.
That's awesome. Well, I can confirm you are a good salesperson. I've enjoyed these first few weeks, and really, getting to know kind of this world of business development for property managers. And I think when we say business development, we kind of mean there's kind of two categories of that, right? There's inbound and there's outbound. Yeah. Obviously, we're here to talk about outbound. We've got a great tool that helps property managers and business development professionals do that. But I'd love to hear from you, just in your experience as a BDM and also coaching BDMs, maybe define the categories of inbound and outbound a little bit and what we're really talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So inbound lead is somebody coming to you saying, "Hey, I'm ready to make a change. I am ready to make a decision. Can you help me make that decision?" That's, I would say, at the most basic level, a definition of an inbound lead. Somebody coming to you saying, "I'm ready." Now, the way that you get those inbound leads, word of mouth. There are multiple companies out there that you can pay money to, and they will send you leads. Nothing, or if it's something is too good to be true, then it is. And with a lot of those companies where you pay the money, you're one of 10 property managers reaching out. So there are ways to generate the inbound leads: Google, SEO, upping your ranking, adding more money there. Lots of different ways that you can generate inbound leads. However, the opposite side of that is outbound. And it is exactly what it sounds like. You're going out to find people who maybe might one day be interested in your service. So on the flip side of that, outbound has a little bit longer of a sales cycle. It takes a little bit longer to convert those leads, but typically they generate more revenue. The lifetime value is higher on those leads because you went out and you created the value. So inbound lead is demand fulfillment. Outbound is demand generation. And being on the side of generating that demand, to me, is exciting. And I think that for a property management company, and really any business in general, it's important to have a healthy mix of both inbound and outbound, because in inbound, you're kind of at the mercy of other people. You're at the mercy of somebody deciding to go online, to go to Google, to type in property management in whatever area, You're hoping that you show up first. You're hoping that if they go to a website where, they send you a lead, that they go to that website. It's just a lot of unknown, a lot of no control. I can't control what you're going to do. I can't control you're going to go to Google. I can't control, if you see my ad. Whereas in outbound, I can be in control of that process. I can be in control of the value that you're seeing, and I can be in control of how you're receiving that information. And it's more, I can count on it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's, you mentioned that outbound can sometimes take a little bit longer. But what immediately comes to mind for me is, on the inbound side, for the property manager that is still trying to build that online presence of, search ranking, that sort of thing, that could be a long process as well. And so I think both of these things sort of play together, right? You really want both to be strong. But at the same time, as salespeople, we know that hoping that the phone rings doesn't pay the bills, right?
No, it doesn't. It absolutely does not. Whereas I feel like there may be a misconception in the timeline that it takes for outbound.
Sure.
Because we were chatting yesterday, and I'm curious if you'll share maybe some of the stories that you've heard from business owners whose sales professionals or BDMs are doing outbound. And I want to really dive into like how long it takes and really the mindset of it, because I want to make sure that we get that right from the very beginning, and what outbound is and how it's viewed now and how we want it to be viewed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most folks, if you've been in sales for a while, have seen that graphic that floats around on LinkedIn from time to time that shows, on average, it really takes 7 to 10 touches to close a sale or to get somebody's attention. And I think in the world of outbound for property managers, one of the challenges is access to information, which we kind of already touched on. There's lists that you can buy, but the information is a little bit limited. Okay, maybe I know that this person is an absentee owner, but I don't know what properties they own, how many, where they are, that sort of thing. That can be part of the problem, because if you're going to invest in pursuing a prospect, you really want it to be your ideal prospect. You want it to be someone who has a portfolio that's maybe the size that you like to work with, or where they own those properties to be within your service area. Those are kind of important factors. But, I think a lot of times as salespeople, it's easy. You reach out to someone a couple of times and you don't hear anything. Maybe it's a phone call or email, or in this space specifically, sending postcards, things of that nature. What can happen is you do it a few times and you don't hear anything back, and kind of move on to the next one. Whereas we know that it can take time to really get in front of someone. The first time that they see your name, it might not register that you're a property manager that's offering services. So, I think in the conversations that we've had already with folks about what we're doing, what I'm finding is at the business owner level, a lot of folks saying, yeah, our sales strategy is mostly inbound, or our sales folks are mostly focused on converting inbound leads. But what I would like is more of an outbound strategy. And it can be challenging to think about how do I get started with this? And maybe you could speak to that from your experience a little bit. Obviously, that's something that we'll have plenty of content coming out on, but maybe just from a high level, like, how do you get started in outbound? Or if we're talking to someone who knows that this is something they need to invest in, but aren't really sure where to start.
Absolutely. I think the natural first thought for people is to find a list and to send out 1,000 pieces of mail. Because if I send out 1,000 pieces of mail, even at a 10% like response rate, I'm still going to get calls back. And then if it's a 10% conversion from there, that's going to work. However, that's not necessarily the way that sales is evolving, right? There's different generations of sales that has happened, right? Whereas at the beginning, it was, I'm going to door knock on your door and I'm going to sell you something, and you have all the trust in me because I'm your only source of information. This is before the internet, right? I am the salesperson. I am all of the knowledge. Then we have the information boom, and I can find out so much information just at the taps of my fingers. So now, instead of me just trusting you because you're a salesperson, I now distrust you because you are a salesperson.
Right.
And so I'm going to require a lot of information from you, a lot of value from you, not just who your company is and not just, what you do, but how is it going to benefit me? So the messaging is really important, and just a postcard telling you, hey, I own ABC Property Management Company. We charge 10%. We are transparent. We have no hidden fees, and we're locally owned and operated is not enough anymore.
Right.
And so the natural thought is, well, if I just send out these postcards, people will call me back. But it's not creating the value there. So I think that the first part, if we're going to do outbound sales, has to start with, what is our value? Like, really, what are we offering to people? And what is the benefit of working with our company? And that has to be a true thought exercise that maybe can't be solved in an afternoon.
Sure.
It really has to be dialed in. It's not something necessarily that you need a marketing company to come up with. You know what you do. And if you don't know, call your 5 favorite owners and ask them, what has our company done for you?
Wow. Yeah, that's really good.
And so if we figure out the value that we are adding to people, that's the first place we have to start with outbound, is what value do we bring? Not what we charge, not where we're located. None of that actually matters to people. What matters is, can you alleviate pain that I'm feeling? Can you help me reach a goal that I'm trying to get to? Can you, just help me get from point A to point B? Because I see property management as a vehicle, and wherever the destination is up to the owner. But property management is the vehicle to get them there. And you have to figure out, where are people trying to go, and what can we do to help get them there faster?
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, Kristen. And it's funny. I was in one of the Facebook groups this morning, and I saw someone posting about, this company they're offering $75 flat fee management, right? Like, that's a reality of this space now, is that it, in a lot of ways, it is becoming more commoditized.
Yes.
And there's always going to be someone that is willing to manage a property at a lower rate. And so when you get that objection of, well, you're charging me 8 or 10% of rent, and this guy is willing to do it for X amount as a flat fee, and it's super low. Like, okay, well, then what are you going to say?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to say your software is better, or you've been around long, right? Like, to differentiate in order to win that business.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my good friends, Jeremy Pound, he always says that different is better than better, and being different and standing out is better pricing than somebody else, and better policies. That really doesn't matter. And people may stop listening right at that point, but it doesn't actually matter to people. And especially in outbound, you cannot reach out with the same messaging that somebody else down the street is going to reach out with. You will not get any response rate with that. You won't make an impact, because outbound sales is about creating that value and making an impact on someone to inspire them to pick up the phone and call you, or to scan your QR code and go to your website and submit something. It is about invoking a feeling in somebody and making them inspired to take action. Yeah. And people don't associate that with property management.
No. Yeah, I don't think so. There's one other thing along these same lines that I wanted to touch on. It's funny. We're here in the office together, and you were doing a demo with someone yesterday, going over our software. And I heard you say something really interesting, which I think is really fitting for this outbound conversation. It was something to the effect of, with these inbound leads, you're sort of competing against the other 30% of folks or so that want their property professionally managed. But we know that the reality is the majority of folks are self-managing. So maybe let's talk about that a little bit as it relates to outbound, and how you really can create a lot more opportunity by pursuing that 70% versus the 30%.
Absolutely. And so specifically what I was referencing there is it's from a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine, written by Chet Holmes. And in there, Chet talks about the buyer's pyramid. And in the buyer's pyramid, the top 3% of people are actively looking right now. And below that, 7% of people are open to that. It's the top 10% of the market that are actively looking to make a change right now. And below that, much like an iceberg, the mass is below the surface. And underneath of that, there's 30% of people that are unaware of what you do. There's another 30% that, misunderstand, the people that think property managers are rent collectors. Right. And then there's a bottom 30% of that people that will just never buy from you. And I think that's important to understand that not everyone is going to want to buy from you. Not everyone. So thinking about that middle 60% of people that misunderstand what you do, or they're unaware that you actually exist, that is where the biggest opportunity is. Because logically, Ben, what's bigger, 10 or 60? It's 60. Right. So that's where we need to focus our efforts, because you stop then competing with other property management companies. You start to stand out. And again, there's demand fulfillment and there's demand creation.
Right.
And in outbound, you have the opportunity to lead that charge and be different and be different than everyone else in your market. And so just thinking percent of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's fantastic. Well, Kristen, maybe to kind of wrap up our first edition here, maybe let's just talk about some of the things that we're going to be talking about on this podcast and what people can expect.
Absolutely. We're going to be talking about outbound.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that diving into the ways that outbound can be effective, because like I said, whenever I was talking about how outbound, you're trying to inspire someone, you're trying to invoke a feeling. That is not anything that anyone in property management is really thinking about or really going towards. And so that's really where we're going to create some demand. People should be doing this, because not just doing it in the right way, in the way that we're going to be interviewing other people. We're going to be chatting about things that we have seen be successful throughout our careers to help people to see this as an actual lead generation technique and really challenge people in the way that they have been thinking to think different and to try something new. And that's the hope for me, is that we can inspire change in people to go and do outbound as a prospecting source. But what about you? What are some of the things that you want to bring to this and you want us to inspire the people to do?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things I'm really excited about. One is, you have worked with so many great BDMs over the last few years. And so we're going to get to hear from folks that are, on the streets doing this day in and day out and have, a strategy around it and are having success with it, so we can bring some of those best practices. I think the other side of the coin is the business owners, right? Yep. Talking about, how do you build a strategy around this? How do you look for the right salesperson? If you are the business owner and also the business development manager, that's one of the hats that you're primarily wearing. Okay, how can you do that effectively? What are some of the highest and best uses of your time as the business owner who's doing a lot of other things as well? Obviously there's some folks that's where they are, and maybe at some point there'll be a BDM that they bring in.
Yep.
But, for the time being, they might just out of necessity might be the one doing it. And then, I think, like we said in the intro, right, we're doing this for the seasoned pro as well as somebody just getting into it. So even just talking about some of the basics of sales, right? Yep. Like, what are effective habits as a salesperson that you can have? What are some of the KPIs that you should really care about and be tracking? So I think we've got a great opportunity to get very specific on some things, but then on some other things, talk at a high level in a way that really is going to be beneficial for anybody listening, no matter where they are.
Absolutely. And to add to that as well, really practical things that I love that is a focus for us, is practical things that you can take and put to action. And then as well for the business owners, what does this cost? Right. How do you really do this? How do you track it, again, with the KPIs and making sure that start to finish, you can take an outbound approach and really make it happen.
Gosh, that's a lot. It's a lot of stuff, but I'm really excited. It's going to be great. We're going to learn a lot along the way and hear from some really great folks, which I'm excited about. So, Kristen, episode 1. Thank you so much. This is great.
And thank you so much for listening. It's been wonderful.
We'll see you soon.